Well, this is a photograph for the 20th anniversary of the ordination of women, which was a national celebration at St Paul's, as you can possibly tell. And there were hundreds of women that went down for that day. And it was, again, it was talking about highlights in terms of affirmation and kind of where we'd got to. It was such an amazing day to be a part of, and I think every single woman that could possibly be there that had been ordained in 1994 was there, and so when we walked into St Paul's was probably, and I would imagine that every single woman felt the same, to be fair. There was this ripple of applause, and it was like, I mean, even now I get emotional, because it was such an amazing kind of moment. And, you put up with a load of stuff in the church, to be careful with my language, and actually the affirmation at that moment was something else. And there were some women there who were ordained in their 60s, which is not really what people do, but they were ordained in their 60s because they'd been so much a part of the church. So they're in their 80s on this picture, and so they've got people who were ordained the year before, to the people who had been ordained 20 years before, and that variety and an age range of people that were still just celebrating the whole kind of the fullness of the church through equality, and through the ordination of women was just amazing. Everybody, it was joyous. I mean, it was utterly joyous. I was first encouraged to look to work for the church when I was in my early 20s. And so that really began my exploration of vocation in general terms, and also specifically to some kind of authorised ministry within the Church of England. And by the time I'd finished all the training, which seemed to go on forever and a day, the ordination of women to the diaconate had been passed in 1988. So when I was ordained deacon in 1991. And then the priesting of women happened in 1994, which actually was only a few years after I was already very much a part of a local church in my curacy, actually coming towards the end of my curacy. My memories of that whole period of time is particularly from the late 80s, when I was very involved with training and being involved with being prepared for ministry within the Church of England. It was an extremely creative, if frustrating time. And when women were ordained as deacon and I went to do my curacy, I was really fortunate that I went to a town where there were lots of women in ministry, not just within the Anglican Church, but in all the other main churches. I mean, during the 1980s, it was a really creative period of activity for women and men. I mean, men were very involved with the whole movement for the ordination of women as well. And it felt like although it was frustrating, there was a lot of energy around. And so by the time I got ordained as a deacon in 1991, I happened to be in a town where there were lots of women from different denominations, and we all met together. And although the largest grouping was women within the Anglican Church, we were supported in our ministry by lots of other women as well. And I just remember sort of the long conversations. We had conferences, we had speakers. We kind of joined in some marches. There's just so much energy, which was kind of encapsulated in the movement for the ordination of women, and MAO, as it was known as, was such a big part of my life. And I kind of missed part of that. We achieved our aims, and MAO became Watch, with women and the church. But actually, I do remember with great affection that time in Bedford, 30 odd years, 33 years ago now, with great affection, and being able to be inspired by so many extraordinary women and being supported by so many extraordinary men. It was just a great time. That's like my biggest overwhelming memory of that period. I mean, I came to Christianity in terms of a lived faith quite late on in my late teens. So my confirmation was, I think I was 19 or even 20 when I was confirmed. And I always kind of thought at the time, if I'm going to take this seriously, then I need to explore what that might kind of, what does this really do to my life? And there was an opportunity to work for the Mission to Seafarers. And I worked, I was only a child, basically, but I worked in the probation hostel at the time. And I thought, well, if I can work here, I can work with the Mission to Seafarers. And they didn't have any women working for them at that point. And I remember a friend of mine who came back and was telling me all about it. And I said, oh, that's the kind of job I think I'd like to do. And he said, oh, no, they don't take women. And I remember saying to him, they'll take this woman. And it was great, the great arrogance of youth. And so off I went, and they did take this woman. And I went off went over to Fremantle in Western Australia, where I spent 2 years. And really that was the beginning of the formation of a vocation and the being encouraged by people I met, so that when I came back to the UK a couple of years later, it was very much, how do I explore this further? And so one thing led to another, and then here I am still. The church is a dinosaur, it's a nice dinosaur, it's a grand dinosaur, but it can be ferocious as well as gentle. So it's kind of just keeping a perspective on things, that actually everything that's happened that women today are able to kind of be involved with, and the opportunities that have opened up for so many people. All of our ministries are built upon other people's ministry, and we're part of that journey of people through all the way back to when Sarah laughed, and how can it be, so it is, I still laugh at myself and think, how can it be, but actually we're called for a reason. We whatever we think we might be doing, we are, you are gifted, you're beautifully and wonderfully created in the image of God, and you have a right to be in the Church of England, whatever anybody else says, and actually find ways to make your presence be felt. And it's different for everybody, because you cannot dictate how you should be, and don't let anybody tell you to be one way or the other. Find your own way within it, but just be aware that you're not alone, and and continue to talk, continue to speak, continue to be yourself. But if I look back over my ministerial career, vocation, whatever language people would prefer me to use, there is a sense in which it's one thing led to another, and I think what I've always tried to do for myself, and I know it's not the case for everybody, and I've probably been very fortunate, that I only ever really went for jobs that I felt were exciting and that would be challenging for me. I'm not a careerist in the sense that I kind of plotted my career to make myself get to the top of whatever tree I was trying to climb. I was kind of thinking, actually, what might be the next step for me, and what would be something I could contribute to. So I've kind of, for myself, and I'm only speaking for myself, I felt that when I look back, things have just, and it's always easy to look back, I don't know, maybe I've had 5 or 6 jobs within the church in the last 30 years. They all feel that they've just built upon the previous one, and which has been very satisfying. And I've never felt the pressure to actually achieve anything on one level. I just, my own personal ambitions were to be my best self, and to find interesting, creative and exciting jobs. And fortunately, I've been in a position that's actually opened up for me. Oh, there's certainly been high points in terms. I mean, my curacy was one of the most exciting parishes I think I've ever lived in, let alone worked in. It was an inner city parish in Bedford. It was multicultural. There was a lot of life in it. I remember being invited along to, just things about being embedded in people's lives, really, and the kind of what opened up in that. And I think what ministry does, and which I never taken for granted, is that you're invited into people's lives in ways, and sometimes just for very short moments of people's lives, and sometimes for longer periods, in a way that a lot of people don't have opportunity to do so. And you know, the highs and lows of human existence, and everything that we go through as individuals and as communities, they've been the highlights, to be a part of that. I mean, and that's happened in every single role that I've kind of been a part of.